Okay.
Hey, so how come it takes, oh, sorry.
That's all right.
How come it takes so long for the, I was gonna look at last month's video. So why does it take so long to get put up on Vimeo? The last meeting.
Oh,
I mean, it's been since, the last one was May, that was.
we upload them to YouTube now, to the town's YouTube page.
So the current, it's current? Cause I thought that's where I went, and I only see,
Are
I
you
didn't
going
see,
to Vimeo or YouTube?
I went to both.
I don't know then. I'll have to check.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call this planning board meeting to order Wednesday, July 8th. We have the full extent of our existing board. Ted, Jim, Sarah, myself, Barbara, and John, and our planning director, Max, and trustee secretary, Susan. So, I've called this to order. We have a quorum. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? As there being no citizens, we can skip citizen comments, and we will go to site plan for AT&T, who have not sent a representative.
This is gonna be an exciting meeting, Alex.
Yeah,
I have questions to probably
Okay.
ask Max. We'll see how he makes out.
let's go. Go right ahead.
Is this presentation going to allow Waldeboro to use 5G?
I don't believe so. I believe the purpose of this was to, I think I said it in my summary, this, and actually they said it in theirs. The whole purpose of this is to just update the equipment to meet the demand of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012.
Oh my,
So this is more maintenance than.
oh my. Okay,
And I did check, that's requiring wireless telecommunications facilities to upgrade their, like, this is just a standard upgrade. pretty much.
is this upgrade going to have a beneficial effect on town businesses communicating with other towns?
I don't know word for word what this would do, but this is supposed to be improved antenna facilities for AT&T.
It's supposed to, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
This is just an improved antenna facility for them. They're adding on three additional antennas,
Yep.
6 remote radio units, 3 surge arresters, 6 fiber cables, and 2 fiber runs to the existing tower. So it's
We have the list, but I was just wondering how it's going to be applied.
So, I'm sorry,
No.
a new generator, right?
and a new generator.
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be on the pad at the bottom that they also use.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Go ahead.
and Max, this is a different tower than the one we reviewed last year, the year before?
No, so that was the same. So it's the same tower.
Oh, okay.
Last time we just had T-Mobile do it. This time it's AT&T.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Verizon was the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So different companies
height levels,
use
yeah.
the same tower?
Yeah,
They lease it, yeah.
I think on the graph that's shown,
And the generator is in addition to existing generators or replacing?
it's just for their generator. Yes.
It's just AT&T generator, so it's
Yep.
an additional generator. It doesn't add any
I was
noise.
hoping they might make some competition for operations like Spectrum.
So
Or
So,
all of
yeah,
them, any of
on
them?
the handout that was provided to you, the fourth from the top, that's gonna be AT&T's level. And then you notice there's 3 others. Those could be, I'd have to pull up like I'd have to pull up T-Mobile's, but I believe theirs was, I think theirs was actually the 3rd from the top. I'd have to confirm that, but it's just a different level.
Yep.
But same tower, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Max, you said it's an upgrade. Upgrade or an expansion? Because I don't see him taking anything down. I would think if it was an upgrade, they're replacing existing antennas with better equipment.
Oh.
Or are they,
Then expansion.
This looks like pretty
Expansion.
new, right, yeah.
Then
Okay.
expansion.
But not contemplating additional service, just better quality,
Better quality, I'd say.
no additional service, okay.
Does the town see any financial benefit from this in any way? Is it-
As in them paying.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything, does the
They get a
town,
building permit?
Yep, they do have to do the, well, this is pretty much then they did have to pay a fee to
right,
have the amendment done.
okay.
But don't they also pay some sort of business on Route One tax, or?
How about real estate taxes?
Yeah, right, those.
Oh, yeah, but that's a separate thing that Daryl has to.
Well, the
Well, he's asking
lessee,
about a
the
benefit
lessee
to the
would be
town.
paying the property tax. But it's not a large piece of I mean,
Nope,
No
It's
road frontage.
pretty small footprint.
exactly.
No, but the Daryl tax assessor does evaluate the land, the building,
Equipment,
assets,
Okay.
equipment.
Yeah, asset value, okay.
Yeah.
So I found interesting that, I mean, we're required to approve, we are required to evaluate and accept this application to either approve or not as a planning board. However, the 2012 Tax Act states that you cannot deny and shall approve any eligible facility request for modifying of an existing wireless tower.
So it's under the same sort of guideline, as long as we're not seeing it breaking our ordinance, then there's no reason to not.
foregone conclusion.
The generators are just emergency. They're not running all the time, right?
I believe we discussed on the T-Mobile one, I can't remember what the answer was, but I'm pretty sure we talked about how much fuel they have on, like how long they can run. But I can't recall what the answer was, but they don't take a lot of power to run those,
Right.
stations.
Yeah, in AT&T's statement, when they sent out the package, it says at the bottom, the applicant intends to install a new 15 kilowatt diesel emergency generator with the following dimension within AT&T's leased area.
They also will not be competing at all with LCI.
No, unless people want to use the phone data coverage. That's the only competition really there.
No.
So
The map that Ted has, is that part of our application? Because I didn't get
No, that was a
This is-
separate,
this
that was a
is-
separate
this is
thing
for
that
the
Ted asked
subdivision.
for,
Oh.
before the meeting, that's.
Oh,
Oh, that goes with a different application?
This is-
No, it's completely unrelated, actually.
oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just looking for a map to see where we might locate a fiber optic cable farm.
Okay,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I thought it was part of this application.
I have a question, and again, it's probably, what's the word I want to use? Well, let me just spit it out here. As you just read, as noted by the applicant, local governments must approve wireless broadband facilities request for modification. So that means, so if we must approve it, what is this about?
It's a very,
We're required by law to, they're required by law to apply, and we're required by law to evaluate their application?
it's in our ordinance
Yes.
Right.
that an amendment to the wireless tower
Yes.
that expands on it has to come to the planning board to make sure that what they're doing doesn't go beyond their current, doesn't go beyond the maximum height of the tower.
So if that was breached, that would be an issue to say, okay, well, we don't think this is appropriate.
I mean, if we
No,
would,
that
right,
is-
if we were to find that
Yeah.
there was something in this that we found didn't meet our ordinance, then we would have an issue
see,
that we'd have to
okay.
figure out what to do. But
Yeah.
unless, I haven't heard one yet, and,
Yeah, as long as this doesn't go over the, yeah, as long as this doesn't go over the 195-foot height limit that we have in our ordinance for a wireless cell tower, then
Okay,
This is just very minor.
okay.
I move we approve the application.
Is
Move on.
I
there a
second
second?
it.
Are there any other questions or comments or concerns before we?
Can I just ask
Move
one
on.
quick question? I'm
Sure.
sorry. I went through this, and believe you me, I have no degree in physics, but I tried my best. So I focused on the general stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So on page 3, it says general notes. And believe me, I went over kind of every one of these.
Mhm.
Item 7, it says, "The subcontractor shall install all equipment and materials in accordance with manufacturer's recommendation unless specifically stated otherwise." Does that mean, what does that mean?
Where are you? Page-
This is page 3,
Page 3, what do you mean, page 3?
the bottom here.
So like,
There's a
Oh,
little
revision
number.
3?
Revision 3.
Under
You-
general.
Drawing
note.
number GN1?
Yeah.
Okay.
General
GN1.
notes,
yeah,
number 7.
it's right after
Number
the
7?
cover page. And
Okay.
on number 7, you said?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Install all equipment and materials in accordance
Mm-hmm.
with manufacturer's recommendations unless. So what is the question?
Well, does that mean that they can somehow usurp or go around what is generally required?
No, it means like they're putting in a generator.
Yes.
And that they're not making the generator, they're buying pieces and parts that are already made, and so, which has specifications already.
Okay.
So, that's how it's all gonna be installed correctly from the manufacturers.
Okay.
Like, in other words, always install a generator level, or whatever it
I
might
see.
be, you know?
So there's things that go along with
Right.
how they need to do it.
Yeah.
Because
unless-
these plans these are basically construction and assembly plans for the subcontractors to allow them to quote and build what it is that they're asking for, and they're using these same ones as part of their
see.
application, so we know fully what they're doing. So because they're gonna subcontract, I mean, AT&T's not very
They're not.
unlikely doing this.
Right.
They're gonna subcontract all the work out to have this done. And so this is what they're gonna give to those.
I think, what I
subs.
was thinking in a broader sense, so when they make all these improvements, someone obviously checks that to make sure the work is appropriate, there's no safety hazards of this, that, whatever.
Yeah, and AT&T is ultimately responsible
I see,
for
okay.
making sure that that happens.
Okay, that's fine.
So they're
Thank you.
pretty much saying like, installing it, the manufacturer's saying, installing it this way and you're gonna get a better coverage or better quality. But the subcontractor may get to the site, try and install it the way they're saying it.
Yeah,
But then be like, oh, it's not gonna work this way, we have to move it
I
over
see.
here, over here, so can we get a special permission to do that? And that's more of a private
I follow you, okay.
thing.
Which does bring up
The
one question
CEO.
though, just for clarity, Max. This application is actually Empire Telecom. Is that a subsidiary of AT&T, or are they in fact a subcontractor that's handling this particular job? Do you know that?
Yeah, that's just subcontracted to at least handle the,
Okay, so this is for AT&T, but
Yes.
Empire Telecom is
They're the
actually
one who submitted the
executing it, and they're
application,
actually
yes.
applying. Okay.
And our maximum height requirement is 195 feet?
a wireless telecommunication tower can only be 195 feet tall.
Okay.
And
This one's 190.
yes.
Yeah.
And
190.
this tower, where the changes would be made is at 150 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they are installing, I don't know, a new tower on top of that, I don't think they're gonna break that.
So they're building on the hill, do they take a mean? Where do they take that from? The 0, what's that,
Wouldn't it-
just at the site, the center of the site?
Ground
or
level,
do they-
right?
There's
Yeah.
a lower part of the site and a higher part, it's a small site, but,
Wouldn't it be from the
base
concrete or
of the
whatever
tower to-
platform it's standing on?
but you could make your platform.
We're not talking sea level, it's just ground level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up the original
ordinance?
blueprints for that.
Just because it happens to be on one of our big tills, I was just curious,
Mm.
Yeah.
what's
Well-
one? But it's already done,
Well, the
so-
height of the actual
three is the
tower is
map.
190. 'Cause it says tower height, doesn't say, height relative to the, yeah,
Ground
it's
level
using ground
to
level at the
190.
base of the tower itself.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I
Motion's,
thought this was gonna be a shoo-in.
motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
Who was
carried.
the seconder, Barbara?
I was, I think,
Thank you.
Yep.
earlier.
She's
I was.
quick. Okay. Next on the agenda is preliminary application for subdivision on Wagner Bridge. Are we ready for that?
Are you ready for that?
I am,
You're ready for that? Okay. Could you,
sure.
please introduce yourself?
My name is Paul Dodge. I'm pretty hard of hearing, so if people don't talk too fast and they enunciate clearly, I'll be able to understand everything, I hope. The property that is under consideration is 52 acres, sort of. We don't know, it hasn't been surveyed yet. And I would like to create 2 lots on Wagner Bridge Road with driveways onto Wagner Bridge Road. And then have a right-of-way on the south side that would go back as far as needed and would leave the property free for somebody else in the future days to be able to do more with the property than I would like to. The size of the back lots, I just put it on there, what I was thinking of. Making the lots larger, I think, is more likely to attract the type of neighbors that I would like to have. And my intent would be, as far as possible, not to have to build a subdivision road, but to put properties on a driveway. So there'd be 2 on driveways, their own driveways, on Wagner Bridge Road. And then the back lots would be on a private drive. And there would be 2 moderate-sized lots, and then all of the backland would be one parcel.
Can you, like, draw that on here for us?
Yes.
Wayne has
It's
this.
this one.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. I saw Dodge down further, and I thought that was you.
I was looking at Dodge and
The-
getting confused.
The property, I'm not sure if it's north or south, but just below it says Bess.
Yep.
Are they also on a small right-of-way to get access back here?
There's a funny little space between my property line and that lot's property line, and I don't understand what that is because their driveway doesn't go along that's north side of the property.
Where
Yeah,
does-
but that's for the lot 84B, which is Feltus. I'm thinking about 84, how does Bess get access back there? It looks like that's what that strip is. I
Or
just,
maybe between the 2 lots, see the dashed line
dash line there too, yeah.
between the 2 lots? Do you see what he's saying? Do you know how
I do.
they get in here?
So you got this lot back here, and
That must
it
be-
looks like,
That must be the intent of that.
yeah. So it'd actually be then 2 side-by-side narrow drives going to the back acreage, the same area.
Max, do you know what the fire department thinks about this kind of access?
Well, this is all preliminary, so I haven't really checked with the fire department.
Do you know what the fire department thinks about an access like this?
I don't know what they think about it.
And it would always be, it would be a private road, not a town road of any kind.
That's my intent, but by making it 50 feet wide, I'm leaving it for the men of the future time to do whatever they want with it.
So the strip that you're showing at the bottom here, below these lots, that strip is is to scale at 50 feet wide, is
That's
that correct? Okay. So you've got a 2-acre lot and a 3-acre lot on Wagner Road, and then 2 4.6-acre lots behind that.
And those lots in the back are negotiable, you know, they could be 2-acre lots, or if somebody wanted a bigger piece of land, because there's so much land back there. And as you get farther back, to me, it's not as desirable. The land that's up front is nicer. So it doesn't matter to me if somebody wants more of that, I'd be happy for them to have it.
In other words, you own the entire lot, 85.
Yes,
What is the total acreage?
the tax map shows it as 52 and a half.
On the 4 point, I'm assuming you want people to put houses up on this?
Yes,
So the 4.6 and the 4.6, could someone buy that and then subdivide it in half themselves? And sell, say, half of it, or 2.6?
well,
Maybe.
I would think so, you know, if they bought it and waited 5 years, I think they get to do that. But I think there's a limit to how many dwellings can be put on a private drive.
I see, that's what I was getting
I
at.
thought it was 3, but I really don't know, I haven't.
Okay.
The 2-acre lot and the 3-acre lot have been soil tested?
Yes, they have. The others have also.
Thank you.
Have you had it surveyed already? Have you had a survey done?
No, my surveyor can't make it for a couple of months, he's booked up.
So that's what we need to find out, I guess, is the total number of lots that can be on a private road, what the fire department thinks about getting in and turning around and helping, or what, you know, even how you, I don't know, does that driveway have a road name? Like, the fire department had to find these houses? Where did is it, you know? this
Well, I
lot-
think it should have a road name. And I think it should be called Fernside.
It's called what?
Fernside.
Ah. And then, you know, all the, so, yeah, it's just so, obviously, the road's very busy just before you get to your lot with lots of smaller properties. So there's a lot of driveways already on this section of the road coming onto it. And what's the speed of the road at this point? I mean, what do people drive?
45.
45?
And is there access on the other end of your property with a road?
Well, from a stream.
Oh, I see.
So there's a little cross symbol right at the 85 number here.
Cemetery.
Is there a cemetery there?
There is a cemetery.
Okay.
So you already have residents.
Yes,
They're very quiet.
They're very subdivided.
and Daryl McKinney got me somebody's research that shows the names of the people who are buried there and when they were born, and all of that. And it states which of these headstones are fallen and which are not.
Okay.
Randy Gross.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Andy.
Do we have any other questions at this point? I think there's some questions already that we'll want to understand.
Exactly.
I have a question for Max. I believe if you have property and you want to subdivide it, it has to be surveyed before you can actually subdivide it.
Yep.
So
So,
the surveyor will answer a lot of these questions
Yeah.
from their experience, you know,
yeah.
that's okay.
But
I
can
don't-
we review this before it's surveyed again? Can the actual application be submitted without it being, before it's surveyed? It can't, right?
You can do that. I would highly recommend against it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's what I was trying to get to.
Nothing against
How does Fred Bess relate to the road beside his property? the private driveway?
There's nothing there now.
Okay, how does Fred access his property? Is it landlocked?
I don't know, but it looks like he's retained, you know, a right-of-way.
That's what I was wondering, just before we okayed the whole situation. Be interesting to have a solid understanding of that.
And this isn't where the trailer park is it? Is that Fred's trailer park?
Fred Bess has a trailer park on.
235.
On the other road,
235.
okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know him.
I know him fairly well.
There's a lot of tractors.
Something to be
Should
said
we
for
ask him
that.
for one?
Yeah.
So this is not the trailer park.
No,
Right.
it isn't. My mistake.
Okay.
So I think one of your reasons for coming in was to give us a heads up, see what you want, and see what questions we have, so when you do make your application, you can answer them right up front.
That's right, and so that when it's surveyed, he knows what he's doing and.
Clear definitions.
So I think clarifying Bess's right of way and what he has, knowing what his opinion is, whether he supports your subdivision or not, will be important. We would be asking him anyway, right, Max?
The
I,
neighbors will be notified.
Yeah.
yep, all
Buddy?
others will be
Yep.
notified,
Okay.
including Fred.
And if there's any impact, for me, if there's any impact on drainage in the area, as you cut perpendicular to Wagner Bridge, you might be messing up some of the existing drainage, and your surveyor or your engineer will be able to figure that out. But for me, those would be the principal items.
Well, when you get back about 500 feet,
Yeah.
the land goes down a little bit, and then it goes back up. And there's water running across from Mr. Bess's property. And then when it gets down, there's an old woods road that runs down the middle of my property. And that cuts through that water and gathers it. And then somebody cut a trench to drain that puddle out. And with the rain that we've been having, there's about a garden hose worth of water, probably, 5 or so gallons a minute that goes across there. So there would have to be a culvert.
Where's that in relation to to the lots? That,
It would be on the first, about the middle of the first back lot.
okay.
4.6.
The first one meaning the furthest right, or the one in the one
Closer to the road.
closer to the road? Okay.
I got one last question. I'm not sure if it's relevant, but could people, if they bought these lots, could they put in trailers or double wides? Is there anything to say that they could or couldn't do that?
I wasn't gonna restrict it, but if I made the lots that big,
Right.
and they're nice, it's nice
Sure.
land. So I think somebody who's gonna put in a trailer is gonna be looking for a cheaper lot. Because the lot being bigger, I would charge more for it and hope that it would be somebody who, and what I want
Sure.
for a neighbor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because if they say, I'm just extrapolating here, say they subdivided those 4.6s, so then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then everyone wanted to put in a trailer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but then what about the neighbors? Would they have an issue?
Well,
And this is, I'm going ahead, I'm sorry, but I'm just.
But John, doesn't that go back to one of the other questions we asked, which is how many lots can you have off a private road, and we thought that was 3. And if
So
it's
just-
3, this is 3, and it can't go any smaller.
Okay, so that,
so if they wanted to.
1, 2, and the rest of it.
I got you,
Yep, yep.
okay.
I would think they would need to bring the driveway up to town road specification.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Well, and then if he's selling a certain lot size, then
Right.
that the buyer couldn't immediately subdivide. It's another 5 years, is
They
that
gotta
correct,
wait.
Matt?
I
Right.
see.
Well, yes, or they'd have to come back to the planning board to amend
Yeah.
it, which is funny enough, something I'm gonna talk about to you guys
Okay,
later on.
okay. So, so we had the issues that I've got captured, and I think Jim had summarized most of them already. I think we just added one. So, is this, getting the survey done, the right-of-way description on the south side, which is gonna be the private road, what the limit is for a number of houses on a private drive, and then the potential drainage issue, going across.
Or wetlands,
Wetlands,
or
or that
whatever.
it might be a potentially a wetlands issue. So those would
It
be the.
is, I would call it a small wetland. It's about 80 feet wide and about 100 feet long, and then the road cuts across.
Yeah,
It'll get put on the survey, I'm sure.
yeah. So I think for an actual application, I think those would be the things that we would be, that we'd be interested in.
Do you-
Okay, so
do you live-
Understanding.
Do you live on the back end of the property, or do you live there?
I don't live there yet.
Oh,
As
okay.
a matter of fact, I haven't closed on the property yet.
Ah, well, okay.
Just kidding.
You can send me
So-
packing.
So,
Okay.
okay, so if your plan to live there is to take one of these lots, or
I'm-
the
to be
I'm-
further back?
I'm tentatively planning to take the 3-acre front lot,
Okay,
or to take the rearmost lot, which would be 35 acres or something like that.
okay,
That's kind of what I'm thinking of.
okay,
But I do have under contract another property up on Reed Lane, which is off the end of Reef Road. And that doesn't require any clearing. And I might wind up there, but I haven't decided. But I really like the 3-acre lot on the front. And I like the neighbors on Wagner Bridge Road. I know them all because I lived there from 2014, just a little bit farther closer to town.
oh, okay. Any
Okay.
other questions or comments?
Just
Yep.
a thought. If you have 80 or 100 feet wide strip of wetlands right through the middle of this 4.6, you may want to push these lots deeper, make that the dividing line, and then do your 4.6 and your 4.6. And that, because of a lot with a strip of wetlands running right down the middle of it, because that's probably 400 by 400 roughly, or 425, it makes it pretty much unbuildable with that. You'd have it, if the way you described it is the wetlands run right through the middle like this, the drainage?
It is pretty close to the middle,
Yeah.
but they would have 200 feet wide on either side, which is the required,
Frontage.
that's what you allow for, like the lot on the north is 200 feet wide.
Hmm.
So they might have to build themselves a little bridge to get their cow to the other side.
Just a thought, just a thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You wouldn't be contemplating them filling the cellar full of water?
the land rises up on
Okay.
either side of that
Okay.
wet area.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Let me see if I
Okay.
understand your concerns.
Yes,
The drainage and the wetland is a concern. And what about Mr. Best? Does he actually enter into, do I have to do anything about him?
I don't see how it relates.
no, I mean, he would be, as an abutter, he would be notified at the time of the application, so he would get a chance to give his input.
He's a knowledgeable individual and has been there a while, and he would certainly have some strong viewpoints. Be a good idea to check in with him.
Okay.
But that's just a recommendation,
Right.
Yeah, no.
there's no requirement that you
Right.
do that.
If he wants to drive on my right-of-way, that's very negotiable, because then there would be more lots, and he could upgrade it to a town road. I would be very happy to have him do that.
So, and then what the number of the house limit for a private drive, how many houses you can have on a
Yeah,
private drive.
okay, so those are basically the two things.
Yeah, and some of that, including, I think, the wetlands, a proper survey would probably, that's clearly something that I think we'd advise, strongly advise before you came in with the actual application.
Okay, so I could call Maine DEP and have them come take a look at.
Let's not make this too
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah.
The surveyor is gonna put out, is gonna know what's a reasonable size lot.
Yeah.
Like if he has to make it 2 1/4 because he knows you need so much space between your well and your septic and you've got a section of wet. So he's gonna, once he's on the ground, he'll make some recommendations. We don't need to have a full report of
Right,
Okay,
all the,
yep.
make that piece more expensive for you.
okay, so,
Obviously, it has to be a buildable lot eventually, so,
okay.
no.
So it boils down to the survey, and on the survey, he would delineate the wetland.
I'm not even saying, does it have to be, Max? Does
For
it have
house
to be?
lots?
Have to be surveyed?
Does it, the wetlands have to be delineated on a survey?
I think so, because this, don't you have to have a minimum lot size, and it does not include the wetland, because it's not buildable?
It would be beneficial to include the wetlands, just because there is, one part talking about net developable acreage calculation, and that's talking about the land that can be developed, that's not in right of ways, that's not, that someone could develop on.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that, just including where the wetlands are included in that.
Okay. No motion needed, so we're all
So
set.
maybe I'll see you in
We'll-
October.
Maybe
see
you
you
would,
again.
that'd be great.
And
Okay.
do
We
have,
would
do
look
have a
forward
chat
to
with
it.
Fred.
Good luck.
Bess. Do have a chat with Mr. Bess.
I will
He's
do
a
that.
very knowledgeable individual.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay. I just want to check before we move on the agenda, this handout that you gave to us tonight.
Yeah, that can come off later.
Later.
Last month we were talking about,
Did I get that?
last month we were talking about like the new review standards for Article 6. Sarah would have gotten it because that's what was talked about at the land use committee on Monday.
Yeah, but I don't think I brought mine with me.
Okay. And this
I have
is,
a copy.
okay, so we'll talk about this later then. Okay.
I'll make-
Max, do you have any more copies tonight? Because I didn't bring mine.
I'll
Well,
have
we
to
can-
make it,
we
but
can share
that
this
was
one for
more
a
of
moment.
if we want to talk about it.
Oh, okay, and Scott and I can share.
Are we talking about this thing that's called purpose?
Yes,
And this has to
I'd
do
look
with
it up.
review standards for Article 6?
apparently so,
Since I wasn't there on Monday, I'd love to get a copy.
but we'll discuss that a little bit later. So next on the agenda is officer selection. So I will open the floor to nominations for chairman and vice chairman.
I have a question.
Yes,
Ms. Boardman, are you going to renew or not renew?
That's a good question. Get a quarter?
well, I'll give you a quarter if you stay, even more.
You give me a quarter, now we're talking, oh. I don't know, but I don't want to be vice chair. I suggest we have Scott be chair and somebody else be vice chair.
I think that's a
Um,
very neat idea.
And, that's my opinion. Sarah, you're the next most experienced person here.
Is that a nomination or a
I'm
request?
well, with Sarah, it's just a suggestion.
What are the duties of the vice chair? Not that I am in any way, shape, or qualified, but what actually does the vice chair do? Is it like the vice president? Or, I mean, what are the duties and roles of the vice chair?
Well, if I'm not here, somebody has to run the meeting.
That's the key.
That's the major.
That's the
determin-
primary, well,
Okay.
all I do as chairman is run the meetings. I'm not responsible for anything. I mean, I help Susan review the minutes after the
Right.
meeting, so we make pre-corrections, assuming that I actually do that in time. But my, the duties of the chairman are to run the meetings.
I see.
And the vice chairman is there in case the chairman can't make it, the vice chairman is there to run the meeting.
But there's clearly a set of rules and standards that one needs to know, or is that, am I getting a little bit too?
He's winging it.
Well,
Well, let me rephrase that. So you as the chairman, you have to know how to have a decorous meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Like in the
Yeah.
House of Representatives, so that's something, and the vice
well,
chair.
hopefully we won't go that far, but, I mean, but, it's helpful to know Robert's Rules of Order,
That's-
which
that's
is
what I mean,
technically
okay.
what we follow. That's helpful, but,
It's not.
it's just, I try to just use common sense and courtesy.
I see.
Now, I don't always get there, but that's the goal. So, that's pretty much it. So,
Yeah, I would say it's good to know the meeting format and what's expected.
Yeah.
In case you're up, but the big question is, how many vacations do you plan on taking this year?
Well, according to the last,
I've noticed at least
No,
two a year.
the last, the last
Remember
two,
two.
the last 2 minutes are, the last 2 meeting minutes are incorrect. I'm here for September and October. I am traveling, but I'm going to be here for both of those meetings, just barely, but I'm here.
You say you're going to be present for the next two meetings.
I will,
And the minutes
yes.
are wrong in saying that you're not.
Correct.
Thank you. Good.
So, how many trips do I have planned?
How many
That
meetings do you
one-
plan on missing?
I have no knowledge of missing any meetings in the near term,
Here.
because I have a big trip planned, and then probably gonna take a couple big trips next year too, but hopefully, but I don't know of what those schedules are. Generally, because of the berries, they have to be in the spring or later on in the fall.
So you should be planting more berries.
I've done that. I planted 80 more last fall, so, yes, but, so there's no plan to be missing. That's not to say it's not gonna happen. So,
Ted, do you have any interest in being vice?
Not particularly. My health is a little peculiar, and I'm not too sure just how things are going. Thank you.
Jim, you could do it too.
Yep.
Too green. Well, we've been here for 4 months. No,
Why don't
I
you
go,
guys do a
for
split
me, I
year?
think
You
it
do it
goes
for
with
6 months and-
seniority.
See if Jim will do it for the following 6 months. Can we do that? Can we split it?
you can
What?
designate the terms however
We
you'd
could-
like.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that anybody that was selected to these officers, if I suddenly decided to resign as chairman, but stay on the board, that's theoretically possible,
Yep,
right? Please?
yep.
But if you did that, then we'd have to discuss it and find out if the people who were vice chair want to assume. Or is it automatic? Like if you resign?
And
You are reading
At
fine
least, I would
print.
think at least one meeting you would have to then lead, right? And your first order of business might be to
To fire
Call
find
for a
another,
special
to
election.
find
Call
yourself
for a
and find
special
another
election.
chair.
That's fine.
Wow, I think we're way overthinking this
Yeah,
myself.
right.
Just a tad, just a tad.
And everybody needs to be acceptable by the select board.
That's
Oh, then
true.
that eliminates
That is
me.
Oh.
Hardly, hardly.
Is that true that the select board has to approve
I'm
the
quite
chairman
sure
and
that-
vice chairman?
Quite sure they approve the people selected,
That's true.
yes.
Yep.
I would prefer not to do
Jim? Would you step
It's
up?
almost by default, isn't it?
Yes.
Don't
Well, I
tell-
heard that you preferred not to be vice chair.
I
and-
did.
Well, I prefer not to be chairman, but I'm
You're doing it.
willing to do it if
Yeah, so I was vice chair
nobody
for
else is gonna.
a long time.
You
Indeed.
were.
And, yeah, already, so
Yeah.
I would like to not, I have too
I
many
feel
things
like
on
I've
the
been
plate.
chairman forever, so.
it. I sense some guilt coming in.
But we definitely have to have somebody to
Yep.
be
So
available.
Barbara, if I agree to do it, are you gonna agree to stay?
Oh, aren't you something?
There's some leverage, I like that.
That's a nice
So
move
where,
right there.
one,
We do
one, two,
greatly
three,
value
four, five,
your,
six, there's 6 of us and we
Yeah.
have to have 5,
Right.
right?
We're still looking for one more.
Yeah.
Right,
we
it should be
still have
seven.
an
Seven,
opening we
yes.
really need, but we
And I'm-
really value
And
your
it's 3 years
contributions.
or just 1 year?
3
When
years.
you sign up?
Some terms are
And I can
2.
still quit, right?
Yeah, you
It
can
could be
always,
2 or
All
3.
right, it's a deal.
Deal, good.
What's the
Good.
deal?
okay.
All right.
If
we-
he
2
becomes vice
wins.
chair, I'll sign up again for the board.
For the board.
Usually
If Jim
backroom
becomes
visits supposed
vice
to be
chair,
done,
you will
know,
sign up
backroom.
again.
Do we wanna put
Write that down, Susan.
You're not doing any of
Write
this,
that
are
down
you?
immediately.
Are you, is
too
your term
embarrassing.
expiring, do I
Yes,
understand?
yes, that is correct.
Alex, we're
So,
not that desperate for
um,
yours.
So I need a motion of nomination, I guess.
Yep,
I nominate Jim,
for,
vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, who
Motion
made
carried.
this? John
Yes.
and Sarah?
Okay, and we need a motion for chairman.
I
I
make
could
a
still,
motion
somebody
for
could still
Scott.
nominate, no.
And I'll second it.
Yeah.
Thank
Any
you.
other further commentary?
All those in favor?
All those in favor
Aye.
say aye,
Aye.
all opposed.
Hey, you're
So-
going way
yeah.
too fast for me.
Okay,
What's
so-
the second
so-
motion?
So Barbara nominated Scott for chair, and I seconded.
Thank you.
That was unanimous.
You're welcome anytime, for
That
any
was
part of our
unanimous.
business. Thanks, take care.
And I'm assuming that the person designated is abstaining from the vote, so that it will be a 5-0 if there are 6 of you.
I abstained from the vice, so, yeah.
Sounds
Are
good
you
to me.
abstaining? Okay.
501.
5. Thank you.
Although you can
Okay.
vote for yourself,
Absolutely.
I'm not opposed to voting for
The
myself.
president does.
You
I
tell
get
me what
myself
you
into
He
all
probably
kinds of
votes twice.
trouble all the time, all on my own.
Tell me what you want the minutes to say,
No,
5
what
to
you- no,
0
that-
to 1?
what you just captured is fine,
Okay.
501. You don't have to change that
Thank
at
you,
all.
thank you.
Okay, meeting minutes.
Yep.
We have the meeting minutes from, let's do May 1st,
I
May
don't have
8th.
those in front of me.
so the May 8th
Um,
minutes were sent out
were you here
last month,
Yeah,
but
these
they
were
were
from,
postponed.
right.
So-
Oh, okay,
We
so I
have these
forgot to
from
bring
last
them.
month.
Sorry.
And were you?
Wait a minute, maybe they're in here.
Yeah, this is the, yeah.
Well, I have a copy, but I don't know if it's the most recent one, or the final one.
I'll give you, Susan's looking for,
This
one.
is second draft. I'm not sure that I can retrieve the
Okay.
final version
well, you
of
can,
the
you
May
can
minutes.
have,
Can
okay,
you, Max?
you can,
Or should we postpone review?
You can have
I
mine.
can keep my minutes copy.
okay,
I said in my email that I didn't send out the May minutes because everyone should have gotten a copy
okay.
last.
Good, they say reviewed on June 12th.
I printed them off.
That's not true.
I printed these ones off. It's the same minutes that were printed off last month. I will fix that depending on what's said.
Well, does anybody have a copy of this? Does everybody
Yeah,
have a copy?
Yeah, have it from last time.
Yeah, I have,
I don't have, oh, I'll just,
you can look at mine if you want. I just have one before I let Sarah look at mine. I have one item on section 5, which is page 4. Under section 5, that first paragraph, like 5 lines down, that starts, Johnstone said this is a zoning issue that must be reviewed by the planning board. And it says, Simpson said that the current intention is to remove language about marijuana caregivers from the land use ordinance. I believe that should be Johnstone.
Yep.
That's my only correction or comment to the minutes
Good call.
from the 8th.
oh, I wasn't,
You weren't,
oh,
that
that's
was the
right, I
one
was
you
away.
missed.
I
That's
was
what-
away,
yeah,
yeah.
so you can't vote on it anyway. Okay,
Fabulous.
that would be why. Does anybody else have any comments or changes to the minutes of May 8th?
I believe they were good when I read
Okay.
them.
You guys all set? I'll entertain a motion to accept these minutes with the revision just made.
I motion that we accept the minutes for May 8th with the revisions just commented on.
Seconded.
Anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
I'm
carried.
recording that as 5-0 because
Susan, I'm
Sarah was
abstaining.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So now we have the meeting minutes of June 12th, of which Barbara wasn't there, correct?
Uh-huh.
And I had some comments, and I'm just checking to see whether my comments were actual changes to the minutes or just commentary. Let's see.
Bottom of the first page and the top of the second,
Yep.
talking about the laundromat.
Hmm.
It's appropriate to have, I know we were talking about it, but I don't know that it had any real substance to it, that he may have to reduce the number of apartments. I don't know if that was opinion or fact.
Yeah, I'm surprised to read that. Is that hearsay, or is that?
I think it was speculative.
I would
I
agree.
thought so too.
Well,
And-
the wording is speculative. The
That's
developer
true.
may have to reduce. You're wondering who said that, and then it should be attributed to somebody.
That last sentence, I believe I said that. The developer may have to reduce that. I think I said that more as just an update to the situation.
How'd that turn out?
They are reducing the numbers from what they initially said.
But
Currently?
because they want to, or because of code?
Because it was, I think because just now they can only finish building a certain amount, and they wanna see how quick those apartments go.
What, so they have the ability to continue building apartments later, completing
They
them
will
later?
have to, they'll have to come back to redo the subdivision. But that's, they're seeing how well, I think, 2 apartments sell.
Yeah, what was it, what did we originally approve?
10.
10?
10?
10 apartments?
That's
I can go check.
That's-
Really?
That was brought up.
Including the laundromats,
and
that's, those are two,
We're talking about in the laundromats?
Over.
Yeah.
above the building.
Above.
I
Above
can
the
go
laundromat.
check the file, but I believe it was 10.
I think
I-
it was too.
I only my recollection was just 2 or 3 apartments.
Oh, heavens, no.
More
No?
than that.
Way beyond
At
that.
least 2 per floor. and then
Yeah.
there's a
2 per
laundromat.
floor.
And that's just it, they were just doing the first floor right now. Like, they finished the laundromat, now they're gonna do 2, but they don't know if they're gonna, they wanna see how well those 2 apartments go first, before
Sure,
continuing
okay.
on.
So,
So what does that
let's,
have to do with
so,
anything?
right,
Uh,
it,
I think it's because the
it was an
previous-
aside.
I believe in the previous paragraph, we were talking a lot about subdivision review, and
Mhm.
a question was asked, how frequently we can get subdivisions, then the laundry.
Right, and that was the only one that we could,
We have one
right,
tonight?
because I couldn't even remember one, right. But I had neglected that, okay. So we've now talked about it in circles for 2 meetings because we can't remember, or we're not sure. That, can you take an action item that the next meeting, by the next meeting, you would have looked up exactly what we approved? Because I recall we talked a lot about the parking relative to the number of apartments.
Absolutely.
And we ended up approving it. And so.
And we ended up approving it because there's no restrictions in the village.
Right, but it would be useful to have revisited that for my understanding that, you know, and going
Excessive fine.
forward, did we do a terrible job, or were we just limited by
The property.
So,
the
am
LUO
I
on the
seeing
property or
what-
not?
Am I seeing what they were approved for, or am I seeing what their final number is gonna be?
What they are approved.
What they were approved for.
What they were approved for?
And since we had a discussion about the parking, it would be valuable to have a copy of the minutes of that meeting which captured what our discussion was when we made the approval. I think having both of those things, or at least having them available, Max, maybe we don't get to it next meeting, but there's no point in having another discussion about it without having the
Context.
background. I think it would be helpful. So that would be great if you could do that.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
So
Sorry,
we're
I
not
kicked it
going to,
without
we're not
Rob.
going to approve.
No, I think it's a good thing. I think it's important if we really have concern about the parking and what we approved and what they're actually doing as a monitoring and like how we're,
Sure,
how
no,
we're
I
doing
get
as a
it,
board.
I
I
get
think
it,
it's a
yeah.
good thing.
Susan? Sorry, just
Um,
I don't apparently have the final version of the June 12th minutes, and I'd be grateful if Max
These were the
could give.
minutes that was sent out to everyone by mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like
You're
mine?
talking bottom of the first page, top of the second page.
Yeah, and I've got a version that's still got questions and,
Yeah, this one
Yep.
does.
Yep.
such
And
as
I will-
verify with Max that what the planning board members all had was the June 2016 edition. And the second paragraph of
Yep.
page 2, that's part of the draft that you all are looking at.
And I will remove those.
So my next,
And Max has changed 12 copies to 10 copies. There's numbers of copies that are changed
That was,
That's correct.
under
I will talk about
application
that.
submission.
yes.
On-
so, on page, doesn't have a page number. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the bottom of, on page 4, which 3/4 of the way down, it refers to page 6-9. Do you have that
Yeah.
paragraph, Susan? The third sentence, in the middle of it, it says, quote, "Approval of the final plat shall be attested on 3 copies of the final application,
Yes,
including any waivers." So is that the actual text from the land use ordinance, and it's just copied there?
Yep.
Okay, because obviously we've never signed 3 copies of anything that I know of.
That's supposed to be, that's what the state requires for subdivisions.
For subdivisions, we're supposed to have 3, okay. I just wanna make sure I have that right.
No, I know, when I read that, I had a mini heart attack. It's been 2 years since I've been here, and I don't recall doing that for any business.
I think the other intent, though, of that verbiage was to change the drawing that we actually sign for approval to include that verbiage. So it's clear that we're not just approving that plan, but also everything we've talked about in the minutes and any conditions and waivers, et cetera. That was the, because you aren't comfortable with it just, approval and all the other conditions weren't referenced. And
Right.
this allowed us to reference it on the approval drawing itself.
Yeah, and I think that's still, that's action items that, for Max and I to look at, adding a space there and what we, in terms of what the legal requirements are there, so we can, whether we add the, list the waivers and
Yeah.
those kinds of things right on the document.
another question, 10 or 9, did you change that? I'm still not clear whether I'm looking at the final version. 10 is correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The only other item I have is on the next page, Susan, where it says, "For planning board business," there's a sentence there that says, "I'm not able to attend the October meeting," but that's
That's what we
not
need
the
to
case.
strike.
Yeah,
Where-
that's that sentence.
Where's
where
Section
is that
4
sentence? Section
Says,
4?
Section 4, planning board business, second paragraph,
Yeah.
second sentence.
Second paragraph, second sentence doesn't talk about you're not being here.
Section 4, planning board
Section 4,
business.
planning board business, second paragraph.
Second paragraph starts, "The planning board
Yes.
currently lacks a vice chairman." Third sentence, I'm sorry.
has received no applications for site plan review for the July meeting.
No, right above that, there's at least my version says
Yeah.
Simpson is
This
not
is-
able to attend the
I
October
third
meeting.
sentence,
don't
not
think
third
I'm
paragraph.
working on the same version
Yeah.
that you are.
You are correct, you are not working from the same
Here, you
version.
can have mine.
That
Max?
must drive you nuts.
You can have mine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Were these the same, were these the minutes that you got in the mail?
I think so.
Because everyone should have gotten the same minutes that were in the mail.
Wow, okay. Well,
You did ask me for a Word copy like a week ago. Is it possible that's what you did? Or
I don't remember asking you for a Word copy. What's a Word copy?
like a digital copy of the minutes?
What's a digital copy? An
An
email?
email.
Electronic.
Yeah. Because I don't know
hmm,
how you got a separate copy of the minutes.
I have too much stuff in here.
okay. Well,
Perhaps
I don't know how to
Max
do
can
it.
give me a copy of what we're talking about so that I
well,
can.
it seems to me that it would behoove us to
I have
let
no
you,
further comments
to-
on this, Susan,
yeah.
so you can have that one.
to,
Thank you.
have you
Yeah.
take what you do know based on what we just talked about and what you've got, and send out a new copy to Max and I for a pre-review, and we'll do this next month.
Well, the only change
Only change
has
we made
been
is,
the parentheses things like
Okay.
verifying certain things and
So, okay, so,
in the
so,
sentence you said, right?
okay,
So
so,
vacation
so
schedule.
Susan has a good copy then.
No, Susan doesn't have a.
Okay.
It's
No,
Jim,
I'm
Jim
just-
just
I'm
needs
saying-
to-
See, I'm
Jim's
uncomfortable.
copy.
I'm
can
saying
have
I
my
can
copy.
make the changes.
You can make the
I
changes.
can make these changes as long as I'm sure we know, as long as you tell me what are the changes.
Okay,
So the only ones I know of right now is what you're talking about, Scott, on the last page.
yep. And
Taking
changing
out-
that,
Yeah, taking that out, where you're saying you're gonna be gone for October,
and taking the or 9 out,
and taking out the or 9,
okay?
and any other sort of revision questions,
Okay.
and was there anything else?
I didn't have anything else.
I think that was it.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as Max has
Thank you, Jim.
modified, and Max will reissue, is that fair? Okay, could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, everyone's comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor say aye, all opposed?
Barbara
Motion carried.
abstains.
Yep.
Barbara's
I abstain.
Because
abstaining?
she was not there. Okay. Okay, we get straightened out.
And
Thank
Max
you.
is gonna send a revised version. Do I understand?
Yep.
Do I understand, Max? You're gonna send a revised
I
version?
will send a revised copy. Do I just send it to you, Susan, or am I sending it to Scott as well?
I would like one.
I may have to see the revised copy before I can do the minutes of tonight's
I
meeting.
could, that,
Understandable.
that is understandable.
Okay.
We're sorry to, have made it
Obfuscate.
more interesting. Okay, just checking this. Okay. So, it is now, we are at comments from planning board members, but I'll go to Max, first for, if you wanted to talk about this, and anything else you wanted to bring up before we,
So, and Barbara, you can take this.
Right, thanks.
So what this is a document that the land use committee went over on Monday night.
okay?
It's a rough idea right now of the updated review process that we talked about last month at the last planning board meeting. Just more coincidental timing, actually, that was the topic we talked about. So the first page just gives a brief outline of the review, the new review process, the code enforcement officer, planning board, and then a new proposed sort of middle one, which would be planner, where it would be myself, talking with code enforcement officer and other department heads to do some applications that are a bit more, should have a more stricter review process than the CEO, but it has a smaller scale compared to what the planning board should be used to, like subdivisions or big building projects. For example, the office space up at Route 1 where Cornerstone was, that's something that would probably be a planner review. And then with each tier, there's new restrictions added onto each. For example, the CEO can do a site visit if they'd want. The planner and planning board would require a site visit because these are supposed to be bigger projects. The back 2 pages, I believe, have requirements for what is expected for the applications. And then the very back page is a review criteria. Trying to go off memory, what else is on there?
So, Max, you said that the land use committee reviewed this on Monday. Who actually generated this
Myself
document?
and Bill.
Oh, okay.
Good.
So this is
And
you-
again, and I'll also just quickly say, I'm sorry I cut you off. So this is a very early draft. I don't know if this is something the land use committee wants to continue with, but this is just a proposal right now.
yeah.
And Sarah can give her 2 cents from what happened at that meeting if she'd like.
Okay, but just a second. So this is a draft of what you and Bill put together for an outline of the split in responsibilities between the CEO and the planner and the planning board.
Yep.
What the general requirements and decision-making process is, and what the submission requirements are. And is this for subdivisions or everything?
Site plan, not subdivision.
Not subdivision.
What we wanna do is take what Article 6 is now
Yep,
and make it its own article, which would just be subdivision. And then what grows from that draft would be, what did we call it, the application review article.
Something like that, yeah.
so a subdivision thing would be a separate,
Yes.
completely separate.
It would be
But it
like-
may have a lot of the same elements, but it
Yeah.
would be a
It
separate.
would be like the shoreland zoning or the wellhead protection articles.
Yep,
They're separate articles,
yeah,
but if there's overlap, it's still, like American Unagi, for example. They had to come to the planning board because they were making such a massive structure, but they also needed planning board approval because of what they were doing in a wellhead zone.
okay, yep,
So the subdivision would be the same case.
okay,
Like if someone wanted to build a massive new professional building, for example, and it had 3 different levels for 3 different companies, that would come to the planning board as a subdivision, but it would also have to come to you guys as a regular application for
business.
the offices.
yep.
Yeah. That
So
makes sense.
is the idea that this would replace Article 6?
Yes and no. It doesn't replace the subdivision.
Right, but,
That, yeah.
but assuming you get a subdivision article, this would,
This would be for how we conduct just commercial uses going forward, non-subdivision related items.
right, but in concert with a subdivision document that's similar, these would, your vision is that these would replace Article 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to
So
understand.
where is the land use table? What article is that in, Max?
That's Article 3. That's the matrix for,
Yep, depending upon what you're doing with it, who has to approve it?
Yep.
Right.
yep.
Would that not be an appropriate place for this? Because that's really where this starts in the second sentence.
Again, this was all just a draft. This, we haven't even touched, the land use committee hasn't even talked about that matrix yet, because we needed to see what they thought about this.
Okay, but the use of that matrix leads to who reviews the application.
Yep.
So the two may logically go together.
And and in the matrix, the section right before it, the schedule of uses, it does outline, like CEO, permit has to be done by the CEO, PD, get approval from the planning board.
Yeah, it defines the terms, the initials, the acronyms that are in the table.
Yep.
Who, okay, so it's just a thought for you to consider, that maybe marrying the two up is sort of a logical place for it to go after the table
Yeah.
itself.
Charts are
Who
useful.
determines, excuse me, when an application comes in, which one of those boxes it falls within?
That's always something that the code enforcement officer has the responsibility. Like, the code enforcement officers, the final say on it. Usually how it works is Stan and I just talk it
Okay.
out and make sure we're on the same page going
But it's
forward.
his responsibility to figure out if it's
To pick.
column A, column B, column C.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
What number of towns
But
is
usually
involved?
it's-
Knowledgeable.
It's usually obvious which one's
clarify.
which. We haven't really had a gray case of what it might be.
I realize I'm a relative neophyte on this committee, but are you adding another layer of just more regulations and kinda, it seems to me, are you making it harder for people to? Or is this just how business is done? It just
Are you-
seems so,
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No,
No, I shouldn't have cut you off, go ahead.
well, I'm just, what was the impetus for kinda changing around? Was it just too much verbiage on certain things, or? I'm just wondering, is it just a lot of stuff to go through? You got a code enforcement, town planner, planning board.
I would-
How do you marry those to make it more streamlined?
I would call it divided now, and it's just a question of Max and Bill deciding what's appropriate in a given circumstance. You don't do the whole thing
Right.
over and over. You use the appropriate application.
Right.
It's
I
not
find this-
sequential, it's one or the other or
Yeah,
the third.
exactly.
I find this actually simpler than, I mean, this
This
is,
from the
I haven't
previous?
read this, I mean, I'm just scanning it now, but this seems simpler in the way that it's organized and presented than the actual Article
Yeah.
6. So which I think was the intent. Because I don't think it's, the complexity is, I mean, there are 3 levels of,
Right.
there's 3 levels right now, and I think it seems to work. It
Right.
seems appropriate that there are 3 levels, and there's also some legal requirements that you have a
Okay.
planning board. But, so you have a code enforcement officer, then you have the town planner that helps
Right.
helps the applicants and the businesses, and then for planning board review. So I think it's a tiered system, it's just delineating where those are as clearly as you can to make it, because this is simpler than what
And the
Article
ar-
6
yeah,
is
the
much
Article
harder to
6.
read through, I think,
I
to
would-
figure out what's.
I would agree with that. I was just wondering, these 3 items, these 3 bodies, did they ever brush against each other and there's conflict to, I think that's what I was initially thinking. Who, can someone overrule or, say, I don't like this, or who gets the, I mean, in the Marine Corps, you have a chain of command. Is there
Yeah.
anything in here that says somebody has, say, the final say? Or an organizational chart of such?
So, do you mean if, let's say, I don't know, trying to think of a good example.
With,
Well, I can use the example of the apartments. Now, I'll
Okay.
go down there, you can't get a parking spot there, to
Yeah.
do your laundry. How are you gonna add 10 units?
Because each district has a description of what you
Yeah.
can and can't do, and in the
Yep.
village, there's no parking requirements you
Any
don't
for-
have to provide private parking.
Yep.
So it's
Or
already.
anything, so they don't have to
You
say,
can have a couple more
Right.
restaurants there, and
Ah.
they don't have to have their own parking, we have some municipal parking
Right.
lots, we've got, it's kind of like a dense, that's how the village
I see.
is described. So each area already kind of has a description, and then whether
Right.
your project kind of works in that area or not.
okay,
Yeah, it would be great if they had their own parking, but, it's the village.
okay.
And we wanna encourage density,
No, I understand, I'm
you know?
just wondering,
Yeah.
And as for, who has this overall say for that, regardless of which category someone would go to,
Yeah.
the Board of Appeals would be the body that if someone's not happy with the decision, they'd go to.
Okay, so that's.
So, for example, let's say the apartments.
Yeah.
And the CEO saw the application, said, oh, you know, let's ignore the planning board, I'll just sign you off right here, you can go ahead. Obviously, people will notice that and say, I don't agree that the CEO was allowed to do that, because you look in this, that should have been this, and then go to the Board of Appeals. Same thing with the planner or the planning board. If someone doesn't like the decision, they go to the Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals.
And Board of Appeals is really strict on the ordinances, they don't
They are,
cross the ordinances.
and it's very rare we've had to go to the Board of Appeals.
Yeah, I see.
It's
There's
only-
no interpretation allowed
Yeah.
there, so.
Is there a current full-time county planner for you to check in with?
For Lincoln County?
Yeah,
Did he just retire, Bob?
Nate-
Bob?
Nate-
Bob Font's retired.
Yes.
And they did have a replacement for him that decided to take a job in Auburn 2 months into her
indeed.
term. I do not believe there's been a replacement for her yet.
You're lucky you got Napower.
That I am.
No joke.
So, way back in the beginning of this, Max, you were gonna go to Sarah for adding some insight as to what the land use committee talked about on this. Do you
Oh, yeah.
have any recollections
Yes.
from-
Have the discussion?
about any discussion on this? Did you-
Based on Monday night?
Yeah,
Just thoughts? It's okay if you hurt my
did they
feelings.
care?
No. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't mean
Monday
to put you
night,
on the
at this
spot.
point in time, it seems like 3 months ago.
Ooh.
But what I remember is that we went through it and it seemed fine. I mean, yes, people care. But, it seemed like there was general agreement and good questions and, don't you think, Max, or?
Yeah.
So it seems like reading this, you're kind of meshing in performance standards in with the, you know, kind of general.
Yeah, we just want a more uniform idea of what someone's needed at each level. Like the code enforcement officer, the general standards, the ones with specific standards are probably gonna be something either going to the planner or planning board. Get sort of actual documents instead of what I've been doing now.
I thought it seemed like we were trying to clarify and just make it a little bit more linear,
Yeah.
you know, rather than kind of.
So since you and Bill gave this to the land use committee to review, should we also be reviewing this? I'm not sure what this, is there a division of labor here that we should?
This was more because I believe you asked for this last meeting, actually. because
Basically.
We were talking
Mhm.
about redoing Article 6 and
Correct.
having something like this, and I said, well, that's something the land use committee's gonna talk about.
Okay,
And I believe you asked for what the land use committee was doing, or something, or the planning board's own 2 cents on that.
yes. And-
Keeping you updated.
Well, we
Yes.
had talked about getting getting a version of this and working on revising it, so,
The-
so,
The point I was doing in this was, you do have 2 people, strangely enough, sitting on both sides of you, Scott, who sit on the land use committee.
yes.
So if
Sometimes.
there's any thoughts from the land use committee that might have been, or may not have been noticed at the land use committee, then here's your chance.
Yes.
But when something's
So-
written up, I think it makes sense just to share it with.
Oh, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand is that, because obviously this is the Article 6, if this is a replacement for Article 6, I mean, we're supposed to follow Article 6 as a board, and therefore we have a vested interest in how this comes out. But the land use committee is also,
They're making the final say on it.
so the land use committee has the final say on this?
We're
You're making
moving-
recommendations to it, and the land use committee will make what goes to the select board.
Okay,
That's the chain of command there.
okay,
Guided by the recent comprehensive plan
Yes.
Yeah.
suggestions.
so,
So we're
right.
trying
and-
to merge the stuff.
I understand. Guided by the, let me ask this, because I don't,
Yep.
for the land use committee, like, so they're being tasked with revising the LUO
Yep.
with the comprehensive plan in mind.
Yes.
So is this the first article that they're attacking, or is this just part of what they're doing right now? Where's their
The
primary
other
focus?
thing that we've been doing is listing activities that aren't currently
Yeah.
in our ordinance, and we
Ah.
need to
We-
be starting to recognize, and
Mm, okay.
definitions and things
We've
like
only
that.
we've only had 2 meetings. The first
Yeah.
one, it was just talking
High
about the uses that are allowed in town and what we should be thinking of in the
Gotcha.
future, which
Okay.
will be later. We just did this one.
Okay,
Next month, we're gonna be talking, so update to you, Barbara. Next month, we're just looking at some more, general performance standards that have been coming up a lot, like light, sound, noise, and
Okay.
how to better enforce those.
okay. So with that in mind then, though, I think it sounds like it would behoove us as a board to review this individually and see what comments we have and discuss it as a board to provide our individual and board collective input back to the land use committee through our 2 members. Is that,
Or myself, since
Okay.
I'm also,
okay,
and then we don't have to bother Sarah and Barbara with their home life.
okay, yeah. So, just look at, Sarah and Barbara can look at this as killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because they have to read this probably anyway.
Yep.
So, but if Ted and John and Jim, if you guys are willing to review this and then be ready next meeting, whether we get to it or not will depend on whether we have site plan reviews, but it'd be great to to sort of flesh this out, because we spent a lot of time at that last meeting talking about Article 6, so it's good, well, it's fresh in my mind, I'd like to do this, so.
And just
Great.
remember, it's very early drafts.
Oh, yeah.
It will likely change over time.
It's fine, that's what it's for. It's great to have an early draft and not try to create this with too many people adding spice to the mix. Great. So Susan, as an action, so for the board, there's an action item to review this document so that we can provide comments and have a discussion at the next meeting. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. Did you have anything else for us, Max?
Well, speaking of next meeting,
Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
It's not gonna be one.
In September.
sure, in September. No, for August. There is someone who came in today asking about revising a subdivision they have, I believe in Back Cove Road, or
Okay.
Back Cove. It's a 50-50 if they're gonna come to the planning board or not for next month. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
I will know by the 17th.
So, I just have a question on behalf of 2 of our members, me not being one of them. Do we have to have our meeting on the Wednesday, the second Wednesday? Could we change it?
You can have it whenever you'd like.
Okay.
I just need to confirm that no other committee books the
Okay.
room.
I just heard there was some chatter about the 13th being preferable to the 14th,
The 13th being Tuesday?
being the Tuesday. And I just wanted to throw that out there, because I don't know whether they were gonna bring it up, whether they really,
Is that okay
Tuesday
with-
just for next month or
just
in
for
general?
August, is that possible?
Sounds like a select board meeting night to me.
Yep.
Oh,
Right.
The second Tuesday is the
Oh,
select
those
board.
oh,
meeting.
so that wouldn't work, okay,
You could do Thursday.
no,
You can't do
no,
that.
Thursday's,
How about the third Wednesday of the
The
month?
third
Nope.
Wednesday?
that would
20th?
be bad, the 21st?
Yeah.
Oh, 21st, right.
I believe
Talking July or August?
August.
And there's, don't we kind of have a backup board meeting the fourth Wednesday? Well, whatever.
Well, the fourth Wednesdays are reserved for the Recreation Committee. So we could
What
do it,
about having it 4:00? Could we have it at 4:00?
On what day?
On Wednesday, the 14th? I don't know if that works for anybody.
I can do it.
We're talking August now?
August 14th.
August,
At 4 o'clock?
Does that work for you?
Is that possible, Jim?
I just
For you?
retired.
Oh,
I can do it.
congratulations.
Thank you, so
No
I'm-
wonder
What's that?
you're so tan.
I can do it.
Yeah,
I'm
can you
good.
do it,
Yeah,
Ted?
I'm
But
good.
you didn't drop your tie yet.
so what is the consensus?
Just have it,
I,
huh?
I'm hearing a consensus that 4 o'clock on the 14th instead of 6 o'clock is,
If,
On the 14th,
Yeah.
And
if
then,
we have this submission, and if we
Yes.
don't have the submission, we could maybe take the month off.
Here, here,
August 14th at 4 PM.
4 PM, yeah.
Yep,
Alright.
if needed.
if needed.
I will see if,
Thank you, everybody.
I will do what I always do and inform Scott if we don't have an application by the deadline date.
Awesome.
what
Okay.
time's the concert?
7 or 7:30? I have to double check.
Is it the Round Pound Little Brown Church? I'll work it out. There are priorities.
Yep,
your family is important, you gotta show up for those things,
Yep.
Alex.
So the July planning board meeting is still on for the second Wednesday at
We're-
6.
we're-
this is the.
We're here
July
right now.
planning board
This
meeting.
is July? Boy, I'm out of it,
It
Ed.
is tough.
Okay. No wonder you're talking about August. I'm back in June somewhere. I must need a break.
So
We're
if we
tired.
do not have an August meeting, I am giving a concert on August 16th
A concert.
at St. Paul's Chapel on Dutch Neck Road. With,
You wanna do a little preview to
I've
the,
got-
the video?
no, I don't wanna do
So
preview,
what-
that's okay.
What time, tell me the name again, the date again, I'm sorry.
August 16th, probably 7:30 on
What is it a
Friday the
concert of?
16th. Original, I'm a singer-songwriter, guitar
Oh,
player,
okay.
original music and some covers, and I've got, but this year, I had 3 backup singers, and I have a flautist,
Wow.
professional flute player will be playing on some of the songs.
Oh, neat.
Did you
So-
say it was St. Paul's again?
Yeah, it's a fundraiser for the chapel, still needs work. So it's donation only, so.
Okay.
So the
It is
meeting-
not for profit, I get
So the meeting is August 14th
at
4
4
p.m.
Right,
Unless you cancel it.
unless it's canceled,
okay,
okay? That's all I had.
great, okay. And that was my comments from planning board members, I guess, was regarding, and Barbara's brother's giving a concert.
Yep,
At
that
the-
Wednesday
in
at
Round
7
Pond.
o'clock.
Yes, and that's a really good venue too, that's a nice, it's a nice place.
Great space.
Nice
Little
place.
Brown Church?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, it's a nice
really
place
nice.
for concert. Is there
Good acoustics.
anything else from anybody on
I move for
comments or
adjournment.
items?
I
There's
second
been
it.
a motion made to adjourn and seconded, there being no comments or discussion on an adjournment motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.